Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Here is the week that was, the week that will be. I'm here with Peter McGuire from XM.com. Pete, what happened on Friday? What are we waking up to this morning?
Well, good morning, Will. I think we saw a very positive tone, and I'll tell you why. We had non-farm payrolls. All the analysts were tipping 200,000 as far as jobless. So we achieved, and when I say we achieved, the US economy achieved 379,000. So there's a lesson, I think, for traders that I'd like to highlight. We worry about what analysts are going to report, and that was on Bloomberg. Everyone was saying it was about a 200,000 handle. They achieved 379,000, so that shows that they're 90% out. So don't hang your hat if you're a trader on what analysts are going to tell you. Do your own homework and really watch markets, Will.
Well, that's a fair call, Pete. But let's just before the bell this morning, appreciate the bell's run. It's 10:35 here in home market. Globally, markets have already run. Well, they won't be open yet because we're coming out of a weekend. But if we look at the SPI, we're up. The SPY, we're up 107 points.
Yep.
Dollar, well, just a little down. Dow, yeah, look, a little bit of movement there too, mate. But the FTSE 100, the gold. Talk to me.
Well, first off on that Dow, we had a big solid move to the upside, up nearly 2%, and the S&P and NASDAQ. So there's the first part. Gold's been flatlining, but that US dollar has had a very strong move, Will. It's back now at nearly 92 for that US dollar index. So there comes the next story. You've got Fed versus ECB. I think there's a weakness as far as Euro because the US is far further along the curve than what the ECB is as far as, one, rates, secondly, performance of economy, and thirdly, more importantly, is those job numbers really ratcheting up, and you've got the stimulus coming from the Biden second largest.
We'll come back to that in a minute, but I want to talk a little bit about something that we don't talk about a lot, and that's Bitcoin. Mate, we've got a valuation number up here on Bitcoin. You know, we've got a $50,000 number. That's a pretty high number for a Bitcoin.
Well, yes. First off, yes, it is. If you bought at 10,000, it's a big number. I saw this morning on Bloomberg someone was saying spruiking the number $1 million for a Bitcoin. So who knows?
Fair way to run then. All right.
Fair way to run.
Coming back to something we talk about a fair bit. That's the oil price.
Oil price has really shot the lot. Where, as far as a geopolitical, and you're talking about Houthi rebels shooting into Saudi, you're nearly at $70 a barrel. Who could have imagined? If the pump isn't a replication, well, not a replication, but a provider as far as a number equivalent to the Biden administration getting elected, crude at $30, now you're at 70. If that's a good news story, it's only a good news story for a producer, not the economy. So it certainly hasn't been a great number from an inflation spike, and that's really going to play well into that as this year rolls on. Brent 70, WTI now at 66 handle. It's frightening numbers of what that purse and wallet is being hit each week from fuel prices, and that'll really play heavily into the inflation story.
Well, here's the story. I think the still poor is supply chain logistic. How much oil's at sea? What price was it when it left port and what was bought, and what sort of margins are people actually picking up? I mean, there's an interesting story, but we'll come to that in the next show. 10-year bonds, Pete. Let's talk about confidence and recovery.
Well, you've seen an uptick, and that's certainly the inflation side, and then that's really spooked markets. So yields are, ratcheting up quickly. Certainly that US yield. So there comes the next part. Do we see that roll across as far as higher rates? Everyone's told us that we won't see a rate rise till 23. The jury's out, but US dollar is strengthening, and that really is putting an uplift and an draft as far as those equity prices of what we saw on Friday evening.
All right, so we're talking about here about recovery. We're banking on the fact that people spend a bit more in stores, which drives a bit of stimulus into an economy, and so on and so be it. But they'll only spend what they've got, right?
Well, that 1.9 trillion, that's where they're hoping, and I don't know whether those numbers are already baked in. That's a terminology for the traders to identify. When we talk about baked in, that good news story is already into the price. So that could well be the case over the next couple of weeks if they get that 1.9 through, second largest in US history. So that could already, we may not see much further uplift. It may be just organic growth.
Touching a bit on that, so the ASX is soaring according to local headlines based on the fact that this $1.9 trillion stimulus bill has passed through. And look, great. Let's see how that kind of plays out. But that's certainly the headlines here in Australia at the moment.
Sure.
On screen at the moment, we've got the EU-US rate differentials, and it looks like they're widening again.
Yep, absolutely. So it's a big difference, as we highlighted earlier. That US dollar or US Fed versus the ECB, they're on different parts of the curve, and that US is far further along to a good news story. So that seems to be where the euro is, or Eurozone is going to have to play significant catch up compared to the Fed. And that's just a tale of two woes that are going to play out over 21.
All right, let's rip through again. Looking at the next chart we have here, Canadian yields. They're looking like they're pumping up a little faster than US. Markets are pricing a 25% chance for the BOC rate hike. I mean, what's the story? Will there be pushback?
Well, there probably will be, but maybe it's going to happen quicker than what everyone anticipated. And again, virus numbers, talk about vaccines and the springboard effect, how these economies have played very, very significant uptick over that last matter of months. And their commodity-based currencies, that US dollar has had an enormous strength. And as you see, that Canadian dollar has come off from its highs. Probably further downside could be the same as what we're experiencing in Australia and very much into New Zealand.
If you're trying to take something from this and as a signal and looking at a trading activity this week, I mean, is it giving you any guidance as to what you'd be buying, what you'd be selling?
Well, Will, if you put your mind to the Australian dollar, last Thursday week we had a peak of 80, now we're under 77. So that it's really had the oxygen drawn out of it. That US dollar has hit a very strong move, now at 92 handle. So maybe it's a time for a little bit of consolidation. Maybe it's we're going to see that good news as far as US dollars start to maybe level off around these numbers, possibly a little bit higher, 92.25, 92.3. That's a big move in a week and a half. So I think just hold on and hang on, have a look where crude is, have a look where equities are, and all of those news items are rolling out this week.
All right, let's spend 10 seconds here on inflation.
Yep. That tells the story to the viewers, because the viewers only have to see the chart and they can see where the numbers are. And ISM manufacturing prices paid. You're looking at the CPI on the as far as gold, so it's blue versus the gold colours, and that tells the storyline. So as all of those prices ratchet up, that naturally flows into an inflationary spike. So that's I think that's what central bankers are very worried of.
Oh, good. How does this relate to our US 30 stock index chart, mate?
Well, we've seen a solid move. It's been outstanding. Anyone long on US equities has been great. Though I've got to say this, I was noticing something on the weekend, and I'm a little bit worried about the big media companies and what impact that's going to face as far as US. We understand now that the states are hitting them up, not the government, but the states are independently hitting up the large, and we saw what happened to Facebook in Australia, as far as the media and how they're going to tackle them collectively. And I feel as though that could be a sector that really needs, possibly from a short, could be an opportunity over the next couple of months. Because if these state governments in America can fight big tech as far as censorship, it's really going to change the apple cart considerably.
Good call, Pete. Now, okay, cool. So JP Morgan's thrown up a 4-hour stock chart here. I guess, if we think about what it's actually showing, I mean, there's a
big uplift.
It seems there's just a massive uplift. I mean, we look at that.
Well, the banks and all the institutions will have had an outstanding time. Profits have been high, and that's demonstrated by the chart. So, what I think any trader's got to be mindful of: look at what's happening on a like a 4-hour window, and most traders don't marry something for the long term. It's not as though you're buying a stock. If you're trading on a market, you might be trading currencies, most liquid in the world, a commodity. You're not going to hold it if you're long and it's at $68. Don't be holding it if it's at 65. You sell on the way down, and that's what traders are very much mindful of. They take opportunity. It's not a long term. Well, hang on, I've still got it at $40. Get out of the damn thing. Short the market, and that's what trading's all about, seeking opportunity.
What's important to note here is that's a record high, right? And that pink line or that purple line you see there running across the top is a long-term resistance line. It's 19 years old.
That gives you an idea. So that's what technical analysis is. You've got to do your homework, and you've got so many different... We have 28 hours a day of live TV, Will, which is quite incredible. I'll just repeat that. 28 hours a day, live TV across the world, technical and fundamental analysis. and we teach traders how to trade and what they've got to trade, of what to look for. And this is in all different languages, all across the world. I do my breakfast show into Europe each day at 6 p.m. Sydney time. So you've got thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands or millions watching what's going on. And that's a classic. You've just said that, 19 year. That's what technical analysis, you learn. And that's the thing. If you're not traveling, you can learn anywhere. I remember I was doing a doctorate and I was studying on the bus. I used to read all the notes, so that you make yourself active. You start learning while you're doing nothing. So that's the beauty of education and knowledge. So we're never too old to learn, Will. I'll be your age one day, and I'm looking forward to that day when, a few years' time, I know how much smarter I'll be.
Well, as we walk back the clock, Peter, I look forward to meeting you there, mate. But that's a great place to wrap up. Thanks for your time, and I'm looking forward to seeing you next week.